What's up, everybody? Thanks again for stopping by for another edition of March 4th with Mike Bauman. I, of course, am your host, Mike Bauman. Whoever you are, wherever you are listening from, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. If you're a returning listener, I greatly appreciate your continued love and support, man. And if you're a brand new listener of the show, thank you so much for hopping aboard that pirate ship. You can follow me on Instagram at March 4th Pod. I am on YouTube at March 4th Pod. The link tree with all of my stuff is in the podcast description for this episode. So that means if you made it here, then you found me somehow. And I truly appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to check out another edition of the March 4th with Mike Bauman podcast. I need to learn to do my breath work better, man. I get all of it out and then I'm like, it's like getting the wind knocked out of me. Either that or I have to burp. There's a coffee burp or I'm out of breath because I don't pause. But in any event, thank you for listening to the podcast. As this hits y'all's eardrums, it's going to be early December. So I hope that everybody had a happy, awesome Thanksgiving and got a chance to spend some time with some friends and some loved ones, get a chance to have some good food. I'm recording this before it hits y'all's ears, obviously. So I'm manifesting a Lions W on Thanksgiving as a devout Detroit Lions fan. I did not hop on the bandwagon. I grew up about an hour south of Detroit, and I was a huge Barry Sanders fan as a kid, and that's how I became a Lions fan. So I've long suffered through the losses as a fan. So it's good to see them turning the tide, and I hope they can keep it going. But I hope that everybody's doing well. I hope that you have a great end to 2024. I've said it before on the show, but it has been an awesome year for the podcast. It's actually been the best year yet. And I always hesitate to say stuff like that because I'm not like a boastful person. I'm actually quite hard on myself, but I'm not going to turn you guys into my therapist. But so I'm always, when it comes to oh, this is great or this is doing good or killing it, blah blah blah. I try to refrain from that stuff. But it has been a great year for the show, and that is a testament to everybody who checks it out and tells their friends about it and takes the time to like and subscribe and just interact with the show, whether it's social media or putting it in your eardrums like you're doing right now on whatever streaming service you use. So to everybody who listens to the show, including if this is the first time that you've listened, and the band, the awesome band that is the guest of this week's show is what brought you here. I really genuinely appreciate it, man. I'm very grateful to have this platform, and I'm grateful to see it grow. This is something that I do in my free time that I love outside of my day job, and it's work that I look forward to. You know what I'm saying? So to everybody checking out the show, thank you so much. And in terms of gratitude and just being thankful, the season of giving, and just one thing that I'm really grateful for is over the last year plus, I've tried to venture out of the bat cave more. And I'm like an introverted extrovert, man. I prefer people on like a one-to-one or like a small group basis versus large settings of people. I've always kind of been like that. I guess it's part of my social anxiety, part I don't want to say agoraphobic, but I have tendencies of being a hermit. I digress, but one thing I've tried to be more conscious of, especially since I love live music and I love concerts, that is one setting where I do love being with a large group of people because it's a spiritual experience. And those of you listening know exactly what I'm talking about. When you're with a large group and everybody's there to see, that same artist without even knowing the people next to you, you have that connection with them because the music is vibing and bringing you together. You know what I mean? And I've tried over the last year plus to go get out to more local shows because there's so much talent here in Nashville. We're known as the music city, but I think kind of outside looking in, and I can attest to this as somebody who moved here, like many do. I really thought it was all country when I came here. And then I discovered there's so much more than that. Like whatever genre you're into, there are talented musicians in that genre in Nashville. And so I got a chance to go to Zacapalooza, I believe it's called, in August of 2023. And that is where I met this week's guest. And we talked about Seven Dust for a while on the patio over at the end, and we've stayed in touch. They're great guys. This week's guest is none other than Sleep Nation, the rock and roll duo based here in Nashville, Tennessee, and we actually got Bran, the vocalist, guitarist, one of the founding members. Um, we got a chance to catch up for the first time on the podcast. He and Joey, the drummer Joey Lauretta, shout out. They came on the podcast earlier this year. I think I put that episode out in like February or March because their album "And Then There Were Two" was released in 2023. So we got a chance to catch up and get them on the pod early in 2024, and their latest record, Deadbeat Disco, just came out on November 20th. And Bran and I had gotten in touch. He actually sent me the music after it was mixed and mastered and gave me a sneak peek before it hit everybody's ears, and that's always cool too, man. I always appreciate it when artists like think enough of you that they're sharing something that's very personal to them with you before it comes out. And so we've stayed in touch on Instagram. I've gotten a chance to go to more local shows. We actually talk about it, but they did their album release party just a few nights ago as I'm recording the intro and close to this. And so it's one of those things where it's like the show's coming out in December, but we were talking about the album release show because we recorded it like a little after mid-November, like the week before the album release show. So there's some stuff that we're talking about that's already happened, but needless to say, Brandon and Joey are great guys, man. They're both really talented. This record is really cool, as you guys will hear about in the conversation, is that it really was a Nashville music community record in terms of who produced it, their friends that made guest appearances on the record, and who came out to the album release show. Like, it's really cool, man. Like I said, I'm kind of an introverted, extroverted cat, and it's been a weird couple of years. We all go through our highs and lows in life, but one thing I'm really grateful for are like the close friends and family that I have, the people who are rocking with the pod, and people like Brandon and Joey who I've been able to meet in the local music community who are good dudes making awesome music. So it was great to get Bran back on and talk about all things Deadbeat Disco. So without further ado, I'm going to show my big yapper and give you guys my conversation with Bran Merritt, one half of the duo that is Sleep Nation. Here it is. All righty, well, there we go, Bran. Thank you again so much, dude, for taking the time to do this, man. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Happy,
good to see you, man.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
We were commiserating a little before we hit record about being in your mid-30s and gaining a little weight, but I feel like we're doing pretty good though. I feel like we look good for our age, not to toot our own horns, but I feel like we're doing all right. And you're kicking ass with Sleep Nation and making awesome music. So I think it's not a bad time to be in our mid-30s.
No, I don't think so.
Well, on that note, as this will be hitting people's ears, your new album will be out, Deadbeat Disco, and thank you again for sending it to me early and giving me a chance to listen to it before it hit everybody's ears. But and also there will have been a kick-ass show that you guys did for it, and we can talk about that because I'm manifesting a good time again, even though this will be December when people are hearing this. It'll be a smash, but the first thing I actually wanted to even ask you about, man, before we got into the record is, just kind of building off the first conversation we had on the podcast, and how long you guys have been in music and how you and Joey met and everything. In October, recently, you guys got a chance to go to the Grand Ole Opry as part of the Josie Music Awards. You guys were nominated for Best Rock Album and Best Duo of the Year, and I saw some of those pictures on Instagram, and that was a really cool honor, man. Like I saw that's the largest independent music award show in the world. What was it like to just be part of such a historic a venue like that and get nominated and be in all those musicians, man?
It was so cool. That was an experience that I can like look back on and feel kind of a little bit of like imposter, or syndrome, because you're just like, you know, Joey and I, like Sleep Nation's been around for, since the dawn of time, seems like now. I mean, I think Sleep Nation's been around about, well, at least like 15 years of my life. So, yeah, uh, it was an awesome opportunity. The event was just so cool. I got to see Tiffany from the '80s perform. I think We're Alone Now, which was originally done by Tommy James and the Shondells, who is still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This is absolutely. I'm going to take this. I'm going to bogart the time, man. Like this, I'm such like my wife and I. Our band is Tommy James and the Shondells, and they had 14 Billboard charting hits in the 60s and early 70s, and they're still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And their song Crimson and Clover, I think We're Alone Now, have been covered like numerous times. And Moni Moni was covered by Billy Idol. So like, you know, it's just their music's everywhere. You probably don't know. They're not as like named. You probably hadn't may or may have not heard of Tommy James and the Shondells, but their music is everywhere in pop culture. Like, I mean, Tiffany had a huge hit with I think We're Alone Now. Joan Jett had a huge hit with Crimson and Clover. Dolly Parton has covered Crimson and Clover, even though I don't like to talk about that cover because, as much as Dolly Parton is amazing and she is a true American treasure, her cover of Crimson and Clover is absolute dog shit. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. But yeah, it's horrid. I'm
Well,
done. I'm done talking about Tommy James and the Shondells.
I'll just say, Dolly, if you ever listen to this, those were Brand's words. They were not mine. No. But
Hey, she
that,
does a great cover of Shine by Collective Soul. It's an awesome cover, but and Tommy James even guest stars on that song, and it's just like even Tommy James couldn't save his own song. It's so bad. Ugh.
well, again,
Anyway, I'm
Dolly,
done.
yeah, if you hear this, those are Brand's words, and Brand's a super nice guy. He just doesn't like that song. It's fine. No, but in all seriousness, man, no, like it is weird how some people it takes like, and I'm a big sports fan too, with like basketball and football stuff, and it's
Mm.
really odd how like years go by and you're like, why is this person not in the Hall of Fame? Like they've done
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like just the amount of years that it takes for certain people to get in, it's crazy, but yeah, I know Money Money by Billy Idol. I feel like, yeah, that's one that just you hear it and you're like, oh yeah, I know
Yeah.
instantly what it is, you know. But no, that's cool though, man. Same thing. I think we're alone now. Like I'm a big 80s music guy, and that's like
Mhm.
because that was she that was like what? That was like late 80s, right?
Yeah, yeah. She kind of was the first one to do like the mall circuit. So which was kind of cool, kind of a cool like time in music history where like pop stars were, garnering a following via malls. And I think she might have been one of the first ones to do it. But man, she just got up there and rocked freaking rocked that song. And I'm sure like her career has probably been really just, you know, different because like she was everywhere and now like she, like I'm sure she's doing her own thing now and so but it was cool to see her and like there was a country art there was like two country artists that I had heard Buddy Jewell and Neil McCoy from like 90s to early 2000s. So, yeah. But yeah, that Grand Ole Opry experience, the Josie Music Awards was um, got to hang out with our distribution Heart Songs music group. That was cool. Hung out with Jill and all of her crew with Publicity Nation, who does all of our um, um, publicity. So it was awesome, awesome experience, and still kind of riding on that. And Joey kind of made the joke. He's like, "Well, I guess hopefully we'll be here next year since we're releasing an album again." And I was like, "Yeah, hopefully so."
I mean, having had a chance to listen, man, a couple times now, yeah, I definitely think you guys will be back or should be back. I'll give you your flowers, dude. But yeah, it was really cool to see that and like the Grand Ole Opry. I've only been there once, so I've lived here like almost a decade now, and my first time going was just in July. That was my first time there. I've been to the
Mhm.
Rhine a few times, just
Mhm.
as a visitor, and then also seeing shows there. I got to see Alter Bridge there. Oh, it was so cool. It's like a spiritual experience. When you see your favorite band in like an awesome venue, it's like
Mhm.
awesome, you know. But going to the Opry, like my stepmom and my dad are big country music fans. I kind of come from more of the heavier realm, as you know, and like more of the rock realm. Um, but I've really warmed up to country just having lived in Nashville for so long now. And like it was cool to see like aspects of the rhyme in there. Like it seemed like when they designed it, they kind of had that vibe
Mhm.
in mind, you know, the mother church, but um it sounds incredible in there. Like it was we were in the upper deck and we were in like the first row. And I'm trying to remember some of the people who have played because like I said, I'm not as well versed in like country. There's a like, a couple like 90s country and stuff. But it was awesome, man. Like the vibe there and like when you walk in, just you feel like you're in like how do I make it say this without it sounding stupid, but like you feel like you're like somewhere kind of like hallowed ground, I guess is the best
Mhm.
way, you know.
Yeah. No,
But
I know what you mean.
for you guys, man, like for Deadbeat Disco, this one I believe is 9 tracks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Some of my favorites that stood out, Sold Out Crowd, which I think obviously is gonna I think that one will translate very well live. Um Deadbeat Disco obviously is awesome. I also love Blue Converse. That one was like I feel like I don't know. For me, anyway, like lyrically, it seemed like more of a darker vibe compared to some of the other songs on the record. Like more like it kind of had like a introspective vibe, which I always like that, and like the tempo of it. Um,
Mhm.
and then the possession, like you close out with a Born of a Black Hole. So, Dead Man's Glow, I loved. Life Ain't Funny, I felt like had kind of if my memory serves me right, that one's kind of like a lot of political kind of pop culture sort of like references in that one. Like, so again, I can rant as you well know, but the vibe of this one coming off of the last album, man, and then there were two, which was obviously a big undertaking in terms of the number of songs. What was kind of the mindset going into this one, man, and like that deadbeat disco theme? Because that rolls off the tongue well, you know what I mean? And I'm just kind of curious as to the theme of this one.
So that the entire like disco and more dancier vibe came from so like I threw my wife a 70s disco party for her birthday like 2 years ago, and I made a playlist because usually with any birthday party that I'm a part of, if I'm like throwing the party, if I'm in charge of it, I'm making a playlist like and so like this year we did a 60s party for her, but 2 years ago we did a 70s disco party and I made this playlist and I kept listening to these songs and I'm like, this stuff just freaking rocks, man. Like all these songs are just so enjoyable and just easy. Like you can you can listen to any song on that kind of like disco era playlist and you don't have to know the like music to get it. Like some songs and some bands like take you a while to kind of get into and sink your teeth into and then you're like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." But with like that era of music and that style of music, like your first listen, you're like, oh, this is jiving. Like I already feel like I'm like I don't have to, you know, prep myself to enjoy this type of music. So I don't know. I just kept listening to that playlist, and I was like, I want to write more dancier stuff. So I kind of come up with this concept of like deadbeat disco, and like um, so that's where it was born out of.
What about like the deadbeat piece of it? Um, like in terms of like that word, like because I think when people think of like a deadbeat, you think of like a slouch or just somebody that's just kind of like,
Mhm.
or like where did that kind of aspect of it come from?
Mm, I think I just come up with the name, and I was like, it sounds cool, you know. Because I was more concerned about like the dancier part of it. But we always um with like the last album, I felt like it was just way too like you couldn't it was not easily accessible. And this is just me kind of picking apart my own stuff, but it just wasn't easily accessible, and most of the songs were, like over 5 minutes, and there was like a little long intros, and so my thought process behind Deadbeat Disco was just get in there and write some kind of fun songs, but maybe the deadbeat part of it is kind of the darker theme, is some of the more sinister themes maybe, because like you said, life ain't funny. That's Sleep Nation's version of Devil Went Down to Georgia. Um, and Dead Man's Glow is just about, um, I guess, misogyny kind of. There's a lot of kind of seedy male characters in pop culture and in your own community that are just taking advantage of women, and it's kind of a song to battle against that. At the time it was towards a specific incident, and then I started seeing uh kind of touch points around like in like our own like Nashville rock community, and I was like, oh, this song speaks to more than just what I kind of wrote it about. So so yeah, I guess that there is I wasn't thinking about it now, but yeah, there is a deadbeat aspect to it, and you spoke about Blue Converse, which um is a definite real story, and um it's not an easy one to talk about, but um like, so I know, I'm sure the last time we talked, spoke, I lost my mom when I was 12 years old to cancer, and a week before she passed away, we had an argument. I can't even really explain how it went down, but we like argued about whether to let the voicemail pick up on the phone, because this is back in 1999, so we had uh, like tape recorded voicemail type stuff, and I don't know, like the phone was ringing, and you know she was like essentially you know dying, and I don't know, we just like got into argument about picking the phone, and to this day I freaking regret it, and I wrote, um I read this video, or I watched this video that said write songs that scare you, or write songs that you're uncomfortable to write, and that's what I try to do with a lot of this stuff. So yeah, and then like with the start of the song, like after my mom passed away a week later, I had to go to um junior high school. So, yeah, that's what that song's about. So, and I've kind of been trying to. I know the show's going to be like this. This is coming out after the show, but I've like of any of the songs that we're playing through because we're going from front, to back, playing the songs in order as they are in the album. Like that one, I'm like, man, that's gonna be a struggle to get through. So yeah.
Well, I'm sorry again for your loss, man. At a young age like that, like I can't even imagine. And when the first time I listened to it, just from having spoken with you, you know before, and you open it up about that a little bit on the first podcast, um, you know, like I lyrically I was like I wondered how autobiographical it potentially was, and I was kind of and obviously you're a singer and a songwriter and a musician, so a lot of times, right, artists use metaphors to talk about stuff. So I was
Hmm.
putting it together, but I wasn't sure, and obviously like I don't like to take people to like really dark and difficult places for
Hmm.
sport. And if like I always say on this show, like if we go there, it's because like we all go through darkness to get to whatever our light is. You know what I mean? And I think for you,
Hmm.
not to speak for you, but music is obviously, I'm sure, a very healing, powerful,
Hmm.
awesome force in your life, man. So, long way me saying I'm really sorry about all of that, but I hope that you've been able to forgive yourself. You're a kid, and to be able to you know I feel like when people leave us, um it's never a good time to die, um whether you're young when it happens or whether you're old when it happens, or the people who leave you are young or old when it happens. But I feel like the way that we kind of keep them alive is the way we live, right? So for you
Hmm.
to make music and do something that you love, um you know, I'm sure that that's, in the ether, wherever our spirits go, whatever people believe in, like that's a tribute to her, man. So I appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing it. I know it's probably not easy, but no, I'll be rooting for you, man. I mean, if anything, like getting the opportunity to do it live with like your friends and you know
Hmm.
people that are rooting for you in the music scene, hopefully it'll help. So again, we'll just manifest. We're doing this like
Yeah.
9 days ahead of time, and the
Yeah.
show out after Turkey Day. That it just it'll be awesome. It'll go well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's I I don't know. I kind of just being a metal fan and like a heavy music fan, and even the stuff from like the 90s, like early 90s, like Alice in Chains and Nirvana. Those were some of
Hmm.
the those were some of the bands that made it to radio, that when I was a kid I heard those before I went down like a really heavy music rabbit hole, and there's obviously a lot of darkness in those songs, so I tend to kind of gravitate to that stuff. But overall, I feel like the vibe of the record and like the structure of how you guys, from Into the Night being the first one and Born of a Black Hole being like the outro track, it does have a good flow. Dead Man's Glow is right in the middle, and it's right after Deadbeat Disco. So I feel like you guys kind of hit people with like the bouncy ones in the beginning with like Sold Out Crowd, Best Birthday Ever, Deadbeat Disco, and then you have that moment in the middle of the record where it gets a little darker, and then it kind of goes back out again at the end. So, and what is that like for you? I know we talked about it with like the first, or I shouldn't say the first album, but the first time we talked with, and then there were two. But do you enjoy that process, Bran, as far as like putting the tracks together? Like how many different sequences of the songs you kind of listen to before you kind of settle on, like you and Joey settle on, like, okay, this layout makes sense. I'm sure this time around, like you said, it was probably easier because it's 9 songs uh versus the amount that we're on, and then there were two. But is that a challenging process or an enjoyable one for you in terms of the
Um, It wasn't challenging at all because so Jonn Nicholson, the singer of Not Your Nails and corn, or let's see what Carrot and the Corn tribute Carrot, and he has a production company called I Productions, and so we brought him. This is the first time that we ever have done this. Really, we kind of always worked with. So Aaron Cicikowski produced and engineered the first album, and Tony Grissom produced and engineered, and then there were two, and then this album, Jonn Nicholson produced it, and Tony engineered it. We wanted to kind of work with like a two-man team, kind of, so that Tony could work the controls and not worry about so much performance wise. So John was, he was like, do it this way, do it that way, try this, try that, but he was there like, um, I mean, John's the reason why Dead Man's Glow is even on the album because I sent him just like that guitar riff, and I didn't think a whole lot of it. And he said, no, there's something in this song that you need to work with. And I said, okay. So I started playing around with it and I found a sample that I was like, oh, this would be kind of cool. And so that's how Dead Man's Glow was born. Because like I like it sounded to me just like a boring throwaway guitar riff, but John heard something in it and told me to kind of work with it now. And then I was like, oh, okay, I I can find a place for this. So yeah, it was great. He's actually I'm already started working on the next album, and he's already gonna like produce that one too.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it flowed really well. And I know we're kind of in like this era of like at least with modern music where it seems like bands like, you know, put out the singles and even before the album comes out, they'll be like you might hear like 4 or 5 tracks off of a 10 or 12 song album just to kind of like keep people's attention or whatever. But I also feel like there's artists like yourselves who are in this position where it's like, and again, correct me wrong if I'm wrong because I don't want to speak for you, but it's like when you're making a record, like you have the record in mind, like you still have like the front to back kind of experience in mind when
Hmm.
something listens to it versus just like a collection of singles or songs. And like, and I think that's cool because there's so much music out there, and so I kind of get why artists do sort of the singles route to kind of keep staying top of mind or whatever. But I think I like when you look at even like the merch that people buy, like vinyl, like is really popular now. And I don't even like what 15, 20 years ago, people probably thought like, is vinyl even a thing anymore beyond like record collectors when we were in like the heyday of like the beginnings of like iTunes and all of that stuff and
Hmm.
everything going digital. So um I think it's cool that the track flow was in mind and like that you guys are making front to back listens because even back when I mean again we're basically the same age like when I would get a CD man back in the day like that's what I would do. I'd go to the store, I'd get the CD, I'd open up the album art, read the lyrics, put it in my Walkman and like listen to it front to back and read the lyrics. Like that was kind of the experience then. So I think it's cool that even in this like super digital social media cusp of AI age that we're in, that there's still people
Hmm.
making albums because I think there's definitely an appetite for that for sure.
I hope so. I mean, I guess I'm not really paying attention to, we tried the single thing. So from like the first album to, and then there were two, there was a period of time that we released about, I think like four singles or something like that. And I was, it might still be the right thing to do. But I just did not feel like it was the right thing for us to do. It doesn't make sense to me. And it kind of still doesn't make sense to me because, like you said, when when you were growing up and you were getting into music, you were excited about going to the record store and purchasing a full album and experiencing, you know, the band from front to back. Like, um, I mean, most of the bands that I cherish and I'm influenced by made albums for you to listen from front to back. Like you just didn't, did they have greatest hits and did they have like a singles collection? Yes. But they that wasn't the way that you were really supposed to digest what they were um outputting. You can't you um can you listen to Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 by itself? Yes. But when you listen to The Wall in its entirety, you get a different experience and um you get a full takeaway of like what they were trying to do. I don't understand the obsession with like singles. I understand it because people are not, um, that's it kind of, the music business has done a, 360. I mean, because like back in the 50s and the 60s, until Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band came out, everybody was doing the singles thing. They were doing the 45s, and that's what ruled the world. And now we're back to that, and that's kind of what people are doing. But that's just not for Sleep Nation. I just it feels ingenuine to do that, and we tried it, and it didn't really garner any. I didn't feel like we were making any more traction with it. So my new like I feel like Sleep Nation's new thing is to be more consistent in releasing albums and maybe cutting back a little bit, like, and then there were two had 20 tracks on it, and that was fun in that moment in time. But now I'm thinking like 8 to 9 tracks is kind of the I want to keep like I want to be respectful of people's times because one of my favorite albums is Taking Back Sunday, Tell All Your Friends. And that album's like 30 minutes and it's got like 11 tracks on it and it's 30 minutes. And I think like that like 35 to 40 minute range is or like 30 minute like half hour range is pretty good, as long as you can squeeze in an album around that area. So
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I feel like that's like a good sweet spot. And I feel like people who really love music still want to listen to albums. You know, um, like you said, I mean, back in the day before that record came out, yeah, there were 45s and stuff. But then, like you mentioned, The Wall, like there's iconic albums in every genre that you can point to a moment in time, and be like, yeah, that was a hell of a front to back listen. Like to this day, Pearl Jam 10 is still like, you know what I mean?
mhm.
All time favorite records. And even now when I listen to it, like I really, truthfully, I don't really jump around because I'm like, it's so cool, like front to back. And by the time you get to the end of it, you feel like you went on like a trip, you know?
Yeah.
That's what's cool about listening to records. So I'm glad you're doing it. And speaking on that, like for people who aren't aware, like you guys have just since you've come into my periph. And thanks again so much for doing this, Brandon. It's always great talking to you, man. I'm glad our paths have crossed. You're a good
Me
dude.
too, man. Me too.
Uh, but you guys have always done cool merch. Even like the comic that you did, um, with your buddy. Like you guys have always put out like pretty dope merch. Do you have some and again, obviously the album will be out now, but what can you tell me and the people if they're new to you listening to this? And I know we'll have a lot of, friends in the of Sleep Nation listen to this, but anything cool you were trying to come up with, you and Joey, this time for this record and the vibe of this record in terms of merch or like the album art? I know on Instagram you posted a couple of really cool pictures that had that cool that really captured, I felt like, the spacey and disco vibe that you're going for in terms of like the
Mhm.
images that you've released, but like merch and just release wise, what was kind of like on your mind for this one in terms of how you wanted to capture it?
So we're still working on an issue two of the comic book. I've I think I've narrowed down some writers to help fill in that space. The biggest announcement is and it's okay because I can say it now because this is going to come out later on. So we are pressing Deadbeat Disco into vinyl. We've only done 45s before, and this will be our first like full length album vinyl release, and it's going to be pressed right here in Nashville at the Vinyl Lab.
Dude, that is awesome. Congrats. That's really exciting. I'm
Mhm.
positive that friend of the show, shout out Thunder Lily, that they also went through the vinyl lab and did like their vinyl there as well. And I've heard
Mhm.
great things. So that's sick. And that process is if you want to elaborate on a little bit, like, and I don't know how much you knew about it beforehand. I know you're like an audiophile and you love music, so maybe you did, but like actually making vinyl, like it's pretty cool, man. Like linking up with the vinyl lab, like what was that like in terms of picking them out? I mean, obviously staying local is cool, but did you get a chance to kind of see some of the behind the scenes stuff?
So I actually one of the reason why I went with the Vinyl Lab is my cousin grew up with somebody who works there, and my cousin got married recently, and or about a year ago, and we kind of I caught back up with shout out to Hunter at the Vinyl Lab. So yeah, Hunter like I called him up and I said, man, I need your help. Like I need to have this record out. Can you make this happen? And he's like, consider it done. So yeah, shout out to Hunter at the Vinyl Lab. Thank you so much, man. Like I wouldn't have been able to because everything got delayed as it usually does in the music realm, and we got the tracks later. We got the tracks done later than what I had originally thought, and so there was only like less than 6 weeks time to press everything. So um, yeah. Shout out to Hunter and shout out to the Vinyl Lab in Nashville. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool seeing like all that get done and like, and I know sometimes when you go through like bigger distributors and stuff, just from buddies of mine that I know have done that and made vinyls like for their releases. Like sometimes when you go through like a bigger company, you have to order like a certain amount, before
Hmm.
you even like touch the project. So I think it's cool that you guys are doing that because that's pretty sick, especially when you hold like the tangible artwork, like and
Hmm.
what you put all that work into and actually have like a big physical copy of it is really sick. And the sound, um, like I just remember growing up like with my dad and my stepdad's record player, like there's that sound is really awesome. Like
Hmm.
I I do feel, again, I'm not like a super big audiophile, but I do feel like digitally you lose some of the cool moments, or stuff that you just don't hear the way you hear it on like
Hmm.
an record, you know what I mean? So who did the artwork, brand, like for the record?
Um, so that was a collaboration of John and myself. Yeah, we kind of bounced some ideas back and forth and finally decided on that piece. So uh, she just kind of kept it, like what was cool about this album and Deadbeat Disco is like we uh, really kept it kind of, you know, within our like community and like all of Not Your Nails sings backup vocals on Best Birthday Ever. Kris Jackson sings backup vocals on Sold Out Crowd. So um, yeah, it's and and the vinyls being pressed by like the head kind of engineer heading it up, Hunter, at the Vinyl Lab. That's in Nashville. So and my like friend Tony, like we grew up together, played in various bands, kind of growing up together. Like he, engineered the album. So it's this album is definitely like a community effort, and it was an awesome experience, and it was really cool having Jonn there to kind of help us, not kind of wrangle us in a little bit, because I feel like that left to my own devices, I will write, 6-minute songs and not think about it too much. Even though I was told by Jill at Heart Songs this time, she was like, "Is there any way that you can cut down some of these songs?" And I was like, "They're already done." So oops.
Well, I'm glad it was like a community effort, man. And like you said, just working with people that you're close to, like that, I feel like that makes the experience better because it is work putting together a record and like recording and listening to things over and over. Sometimes you get too close to things. Sometimes you like you said, the riff for Dead Man's Glow, was it like just going like, okay, what do I do with this? And then somebody else can listen to it and bring something out of it that you didn't know was there. Well, dude, I don't want to keep you too much longer, man. Other than to say, like, again, I'm glad we've connected, man, and I've ventured out of my fortress of solitude and my hermit tendencies. And even though I love talking with people, I love going to live shows, and it was really cool to connect that first time at Zacapalooza, I believe it was. Uh,
Most definitely, man. Talking about Seven Dust for like 2 hours.
Yeah, I definitely, yeah, people bring up Seven Dust. It's like the Spider-Man meme. I'm like, whoa, you too, cool. Because they're like one of my all-time faves. And it's been a minute since I've seen them too. Like they've played in and around the Nashville area. I know you were supposed to go to the Static X when they did the co-headliners. Like
Yeah,
something happened at the venue or security or something.
yeah. Unfortunately,
Yeah, I love those
I don't even want to get into it now. I'm
guys.
done talking about it.
But but yeah, man, like it's been cool to connect and like you and others in the local music scene, man. Like there's so much that like the music is what is keeping me in Nashville. Like even though like cost of living's gone up and the city's gotten more congested, and I don't want to sound like a like a curmudgeon and like some crotchety old man, but even in the 9 years that I've been here, like it's changed a lot and it's gotten busier.
Yeah.
The music here though is it's so awesome. um all the way from like all the bands that tour internationally that like want to play here because it's a music scene or the music city. And then just getting a chance to get more involved and get out more in like the local music scene like I'm doing, and getting a chance to connect with good people like you, man. The guys in Holloway, Thunder Lily, so many others, man. Like it's I feel really privileged to be able to like have a platform in my little corner of the world to get y'all on here and to go out to awesome shows, man, because there's a lot of talent. And it's cool that there's people rooting for people, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that was one thing that I really loved back when I was writing for Toledo Free Press, which was like predating and kind of was like the uh sort of the launching pad for me to start doing this podcast back in my hometown. There was a lot of great camaraderie in the local music scene, and that was really cool to me because sometimes you hear horror stories about like bands like not supporting each other or like kind of like the one-upmanship and stuff that can happen sometimes. And they shout out to the dudes in Tropic Bombs. It's the bumper music on the show. One of my best buddies, Ryan, awesome dude. Uh, Shameless plug, go check them out. But when they were putting on shows at Frankie's and doing like a Midsummer Meltdown show every summer, and the bands that they would bring out for that. Like it was just really cool. It's cool to see people supporting
Mhm.
each other. We need more of that. So it's cool as I've dipped my toes into it and gotten out of my shell a little bit to know from meeting guys like you that it's supportive and that it was supportive for this record. That's really cool. There wasn't even a question in there. There was a rant, but if you want to add anything to that, I'm going to take a sip.
No, so I think we kind of learned our lesson earlier on. And this was more like me because I think Joey is like, Joey joined Sleep Nation in like 2019. So he wasn't really a part of this, but like before we were really called Sleep Nation, it was like three guys, me and two other guys that really started kind of what would become Sleep Nation. We were trying to be like U2 type sound, and this is when we were known from a different name. We like people were kind of telling us some stuff that they were, like everybody we were in like the Cookeville like tech area because we had all went to Tennessee Tech, and people were kind of telling us like, man, you guys are different, y'all are gonna, like do big stuff, and so it kind of put us in the wrong space to be, really supported to like other bands that were doing like, you know, kind of like screamo and I don't have any like I like a lot of that stuff. It's just at the where we were like at, there was a lot more screamo bands than there were bands that were like trying to be, U2. So and like some people around us that were kind of building us up and like telling us it was just not a good, and we were like early 20s. So I think that once you get out of your 20s and kind of into your 30s, you're like the best way to approach, you know, playing music with other people is being supportive. And thankfully we kind of got out of that. We were supportive to, like people that it's just there was a few instances where I look back and I'm like, man, I was kind of a turd, So
I mean, well, and that's cool that you have that perspective now, man, because that's life, right? Like sometimes your greatest teacher is your last mistake. Like you don't get to be, in your 30s without having a few regrets or like a few like, if I could do it over again, maybe I'd have done it a little bit differently. Like everybody, we all you know, we all have you know, low moments. But I think the important thing is that you learn from them, and obviously you have. So that's
yeah.
like the biggest thing, man. So, well, dude, this has been awesome. I'll do a couple quick ones before we get out of here. But once again, everybody check out Deadbeat Disco, available now wherever you listen to your music, and keep an eye out for the vinyl because that'll be a sick pickup. I'll definitely be getting one. I don't even have a record player yet, but I'm collecting for when I do. I want to get a bigger place, so I'm also manifesting like an exclusivity deal from, iHeart, Spotify. You know, Joe Rogan's
Hmm.
got this money. You know what I mean? They can throw a little March Forth. Uh,
Yeah.
well, you know what I mean. There's room for all of us out here. I digress, but on that, man, since we've talked a lot about like this record, but also talked about vinyl and album art and stuff, and I know I didn't prep you for this, Bran, but I know you love music. Um, Off the Dome, can you give me some of your favorite front to back listens albums, and then also like some of your favorite, just regardless of the listen, but you're like, I remember that album art. That's some of my favorite album art. I would hang it on my wall.
Hmm. So I'm going to try to go with newer listen or what I consider newer because I think this album came out like over 10 years ago. But Nothing But Thieves self-titled album is absolutely amazing. I just saw them for like the second time. Uh, man, that is like an 18 song album, and there is not a bad track on that album. It is so freaking good. And a newer Americana folk artist, Steven Wilson Jr., he came out with an album last year, and like, man, it was like I think he was really inspired. Like he just lost his father, and man, I'm telling you, you can feel like the hurt in that album. It is, uh, it's so powerful. Like I usually don't listen to that kind of music, but I just kind of stumbled on him on TikTok, and I was like, I need to listen to this because I grew up on country music. I'm not like against it, and um I like some singer-songwriter kind of folk stuff. And so I was like, I don't know, just like one of his songs really kind of spoke to me. And then I listened to the whole album and I was like, front to back, Steven Wilson Jr. This guy is he should be way bigger than, you know, Luke Combs or whatever that, trash is that they're like, no offense to his, big hit like Long Neck or whatever it's called. I mean, big deal. But the guy who country music should be rallying for and, you know, uh making waves for is Steven Wilson Jr. That guy is he should be like the name of country music and not Morgan Wallen. So that's my 2 cents on that. And you had another question about album artwork, right?
Yes, sir.
Um, well, I mean, I know my go-to album artwork that I think is like, you know, super like all the Pink Floyd albums are just kind of, you can't really escape those albums. I'm trying to think of something newer that I think uh, is just like super cool, you know, new album artwork. But you really can't beat, Hypnosis, who just did all the. I don't know if you've watched that Netflix documentary, but that guy was just next level. You know, I don't know. Well, it was actually a duo team. I'm sorry, I've messed that up. Um, but yeah, uh, I mean, you can't beat Dark Side of the Moon is the most iconic album artwork of all time. And I will argue with that with anybody. I mean, like everybody, even people that don't even know what that album, that's probably never even listened to that album. They know the prism with the, rainbow. They know what it is.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I have vivid memories listening to that with my brother Greg. Um, he got really, really, really into that record for a little bit there, like when he was probably in like junior high.
Mhm.
No, that's a classic one. Hypnosis, I got to check out. I haven't watched that. But it's crazy that you mentioned Stephen Wilson Jr. Well, I shouldn't say crazy because he is starting to blow up. And I'm actually going to be going. I think he's playing the Brooklyn Bowl. I got tickets to that.
Oh,
Uh,
sweet.
yeah, it's like this first week of December. It's like right before my sister's baby shower. It's literally like a day or two beforehand. But I'm really excited to see him because same thing, dude. Like I was on my phone and shout out to I don't know if it's I think it's Big Loud maybe that he's on. Whoever their
Hmm.
team is, like, so he had that song Year to Be Young 1994, right?
Hmm.
And I didn't realize until I started listening to him that that song already existed before I saw that reel, but he did like a series of, and again, kudos to him or like the marketing team, whoever's shout out to Steven Wilson Jr. if he ever hears this, but like when he was doing like acoustic versions of those songs, they were like making like music videos out of it. And like I saw the reel for that, like a quick little snippet. And I think he introed it like with the All Apologies riff from Nirvana, like the dun dun dun
Hmm.
dun dun dun. And I was
Hmm.
like, "Who's this dude?" I was like, "Who is this?"
Hmm.
And then I listened to the song and it almost made me like tear up. Now, granted, 94, I was only 6, but like the way he talked about the 90s and like the references he had in that song and that version of it. Because then I went and bought Son of Dad too, really hit home with me as well. And again, like not coming from a country background, I was like, this is one of the best albums that I've heard. Like,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, regardless of genre, like if somebody like off the, and I've told everybody about that too. I was just like,
Yeah.
listen to Steve. I was like, you like country? I was like, listen to Stephen Wilson Jr. Get that record. I got that vinyl too. I almost missed out on like the first pressing of it. I'm like, I want this record. I want this because it's just such a great front to back listen. And like I like him because like call back to LJ, and then I promise I'll let you go. I'll stop ranting. From Seven Dust, one of the coolest things I ever heard any singer say about music, and I love Lejean's voice from Seven Dust. He was like,
Hmm.
he was like, when I listen to a song, he was like, I need, and I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, I just need to hear conviction. Like, I just
Hmm.
basically, from what I remember the interview, he was just like, regardless of genre or whatever, like, I need to like feel it. And so the first time I heard that like 90 Year to Be Young 94 song, I was like, damn, like this dude's saying something. And then like
Hmm.
said when I heard about his story and like what happened with his dad, um, and that the record was like a tribute to him and that his dad
Hmm.
was a big proponent of him chasing his music dreams because he was like working at Mars as like a biochemist or something. And like it was really cool. Again, shameless
Hmm.
plug, free plug for this podcast is about you and Sleep Nation and Joey and all the awesome work you're doing. But yeah, Steven Wilson Jr. is sick, man. So everybody should listen to that because yeah, that dude's he's got something to say and he's got kind of a cool like I hate making comparisons, but I guess if people are wondering, like voice wise, there's moments where like his cadence, not the music, but like his cadence has kind of a Springsteeny cadence. I don't know if you pick that up. Like the music doesn't sound like Bruce Springsteen, but his cadence, like his voice kind of is reminiscent to that. But like, yeah, it's a hell of an album, man. It's a great album.
Have you
Great.
listened to Nebraska by Springsteen?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. I didn't hear Springsteen in his voice, but now since you said that, I feel like that you need to listen to you need to listen to Nebraska by Bruce Springsteen, because I think it was his first like record without the E Street Band. So uh, yeah, it's I don't know, man. I like Stephen Wilson Jr. I'm with you, dude. Like I'm okay with us like you know trying to exalt him to like the next status. Unfortunately, I feel like that uh, modern country music and modern radio is not gonna accept him, in the fold because he's not talking about, you know, driving trucks and getting chicks and drinking beer and stuff. He's talking about real stuff that like actually matters. So
Well, I'm gonna manifest that he keeps blowing up and that y'all keep blowing up, man. We'll
thanks,
just
man.
we're gonna put positive vibes out there. Well, once again,
Yeah,
Brandon, thank you so much, dude. I hope I
thank
didn't
you.
trip off too much. Uh,
Yeah.
thanks for vibing. Apologies to Dolly. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Uh, we love you, Dolly. We love you, Dolly. It's a hey, but you know what? That's what makes, in all seriousness, that's what makes the world go around, man. Everybody has different tastes. Some stuff is for some people. Some stuff
No,
is.
you can go listen to it and you'll agree with me. It's trash, but it's okay. 9 to 5 and all Jolene, they're masterpiece of songs. Like it's just that she couldn't cover that song. But anyway, Thank you
Well,
so much, man. We love the support and love the opportunity to get and speak with you, and look forward to seeing you at the Space Disco, man.
hell yeah, man. Likewise. Thanks again so much for doing the pod, man. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you, Mike.
All righty, dighty. There you have it. That was my conversation with Bran Merritt of Sleep Nation. Make sure you go follow these guys on Instagram at Sleep Nation TV. The links to all of their stuff will be in the podcast description for this episode. So just scroll down to the bottom of that podcast description, hit those links, and go follow and support Sleep Nation. You will not be disappointed if you love good old fashioned rock and roll. These guys are the out of control alt rock duo, Bran Merritt, Joey Lauretta, making kick-ass music. Their latest album, Deadbeat Disco, which you just heard all about, is available everywhere you get your music. So go run up the streams. And again, hit up those links too, because they came out with some cool merch. Like we talked about, they did the vinyl at the Vinyl Lab here in Nashville. I picked up a copy myself when I went to the album release party just a couple of nights ago. As you guys will hear this again, it's early December, but it was an awesome time. So I just want to say directly to Bran, I really appreciate the time, my guy. Again, it's been cool to connect and meet good people like yourself out here in the Nashville music scene. And again, I was talking to somebody else about this at the show, where it's like, for me, it's always that balance of like, I genuinely like connecting with good people. You know what I mean? But as far as the whole like quote unquote networking thing, it's always like a weird thing for me, man, because I'm not one to boast, and I don't like to like sell myself. And nowadays, podcasts are like, there's so many people with podcasts, man. So I don't want to be like that guy that's like, hey man, come do my podcast. Like, I genuinely love connecting with people and geeking out about music. Like when you and I met each other and we were talking about Seven Dust, and I was like, oh, that's so awesome that you love Seven Dust. You know what I mean? Like, you try to find that common ground. And so it's kind of that weird balance, when you kind of are going to shows and stuff, of like meeting people and genuinely connecting. And I truly appreciate the genuine connection of you and I being able to meet each other at Zacapalooza and staying in touch, and having you guys on the podcast with both of these records, dude. So I appreciate all the kind words and the support from you. It's a mutual feeling over here, brother. So I really appreciate it. And again, I'm just grateful. I know I'm getting a little mushy, you guys, but it is the holiday season, and I think it's important to let people know that you appreciate them. So, Bran, Joey, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate Sleep Nation. I appreciate all the people that I've met in the local Nashville music scene, because there's a lot of talent here. There's a little bit of my Midwest coming out. We put our Y's before our A's. There's a lot of talent, but there's a lot of talent here, and more importantly, a lot of good people, and that's what's been cool, coming out to even like the Sleep Nation shows or the Not Your Nails cover band. I also would love to see the Deftones cover band. I haven't had a chance to see those guys yet, but there's so much talent, like between the cover bands, the original projects, and the people that are rooting for each other in the local music scene. It's all positive vibes, man. So I'm grateful if I've met you. And we've shot the breeze. I hope I didn't chew your ear off too much. And like I said, man, I try to. I'm like an introverted extrovert, so I pride myself on trying to just be like genuine. And I'm a little socially awkward. You know what I mean? It's always, especially when you're like meeting new people. There's always a little bit of that like sort of guardedness, at least for me. Anyway, I don't know. You guys ain't my therapist, but I'm working on it, man. I'm working on getting myself back out there and venturing out of the bat cave a little bit more. And I do love live music, so grateful, grateful, grateful all the way around. So I'm gonna put a button on it and stop ranting. But again, everybody go check out the new Sleep Nation record, Deadbeat Disco. It's available everywhere you get your music. And again, hit up those links. I'm not sure if they have vinyls left. It was pretty popular at the album release show, and the artwork is sick. But yeah, they've got cool merch and everything. So hit up those links. Keep an eye out for more shows coming up. I'm sure they've got stuff planned and in the works going into 2025 too. But again, thanks to Bran, thanks to Joey, thanks to all of y'all for listening. Once again, if you did enjoy what you just heard, I hate begging for this stuff, but if you would be so kind, on whatever streaming app you are listening to. If they have the ability to leave a rating and a review, I know Apple and Spotify does. Please do that. It'll help this conversation get out to more people. And that's what I want. I want to put more people onto Sleep Nation and the awesome Nashville music scene that I'm living in. And yeah, man, that goes a long way in helping it get to more people's eardrums. So thank you to everybody rocking with the pod. Once again, you can follow me on Insta at March 4th Pod. That's where I spend the most time as far as social media. I'm also on YouTube. I'm on TikTok. That one's March 4th podcast because for some reason I can't change it, but it's close enough. But anyway, the link tree is in the podcast description, as it were. So thank you to all of you listening. I hope that you guys have a wonderful end to your year, man. Whatever goals that you have, things that you want to improve, you know, you get a full month before 2025 even starts. So don't wait till 1/1, man. Start working on it now and build those habits before January gets here. But again, I love you all and I appreciate everybody rocking with the show and all my close friends and fam. You know who you are. I love you guys. So I'm going to wrap up the show officially by saying what I say at the end of every show as a tribute to my grandpa. Keep the faith and be kind to one another and be kind to yourselves. Courtesy of Bran and Joey and Sleep Nation, I'm giving y'all the title track off their latest album, Deadbeat Disco. Peace.
To the beat, debutantes in the street with the freaks and geeks. Now it's playing free machine, free machine, free machine. We got four on the floor, 1974. Built this with our hands. A neon wonderland, a neon wonderland, a neon wonderland. Under the guise of the moon, we brought the lights to blue. Love saves the day. A new American way. A new American way. A new American. But the deadbeat drove the disco down. Oh. 54 turned an